exist in Nigeria are clamoring for full independence. They do not want like semi-independence to still exist in the same country. We think that's like a very, very bad deal we get from opening government. I'll start with my first point that will hit off a lot of rebuttals from PM speech. First of all, why do movements exist? We think that movements exist because movements are supposed to have certain ends that they want to meet, right? We think that movements exist so that whatever it is that they want, they are going to be able to get it, and at the end of the day, they will no longer exist. This is very, very key. So it means that in a world, so particularly Biafra, I'll just use Biafra to continue to like explain this stage, right? Particularly Biafra is an outright secessionist state, right? These guys don't want semi-autonomy. These guys want full independence. They outrightly want it. So it means that even in a world where you create a semi-autonomous region for them, they are still not satisfied. So it means that the whole rhetoric, the whole clamoring that you still have in status quo, you're still going to have it replicated in that other world because this isn't what they want at all, right? So it means that at the end of the day, even the control of some sort that PM says in his speech is still not going to solve the need, that the reason why these movements existed in themselves, right? We think that sovereignty, they'll still have it if they exist as separate states, if it makes them happy and if it's going to create like an opportunity for all the zones to thrive, and most especially for them to be able to know that their development as a region is dependent on them and not dependent on any external body. We think that's a very good deal they get. We don't think OG has any like problem focusing on how they're going to survive when they're gone, right? We think that Karim spends a whole part of his speech, like a whole part of his speech, explaining about how control works, but at the same time, we think compelling is key, right? People do not give consent to want to like be in this divide, right? We're also going to be showing you later in my speech how even in different variations of states, people still have disagreements on that ethnicities, right? So when he says they're going to be compelling people, it means that at the end of the day, you're going to be forcing people to make these decisions to like form semi-autonomous states when it doesn't even go with what they want. And at the end of the day, the whole oppression he talks about will still be existent in his world. Even when he says that he cares the most about minorities, we think that in this world, minorities will even be the most, we think that in this world, minorities will even be the most hurt, because we think that in status quo, a lot of minorities aren't exactly clamoring for this difference. You have people like Arewa, you have people like Igbos, people who make up a major, larger groups, people who make up major, larger ethnic groups, and we think it's good for those guys to go out, right? But in his world where he creates semi-autonomous natures, even minority groups are forced to be part of this divide. We don't think they've gotten that development enough to exist on their own. The next thing we'll be showing you from like opening opposition, the harms that come with all of this, right? Particularly, we think that the reason why people are angry is particularly, and the reason why people want to like secede is because of the ills of the past. They think they've been unfairly treated, right? They think they deserve better than what they get in the system. So that means that even if like you create equitable distribution of resources for them, it's still not going to be enough to reparate for all those harms you've done. We think it's particularly tokenistic to say, okay, we've treated you badly in the past. We think that by giving you this and this, it legitimizes a lot of what is going on. We think you can just have your semi-autonomy. If you want to even do it and create reparation at any level, we think it's even fair to give an outright independence for these states on their own. We think that's like a very, very good deal. Karim.
So what do you think most people really want, right? Is it that they want to move away from the country called Nigeria and the blue and white flag, or they want
Karim, the reason why there was a civil war was because Nigeria wanted to be different. They wanted to have their own region. They didn't want to be together with Nigeria. They wanted to have their pounds, their anthems. They wanted all of that. We think that's a very good thing for states to want. We think that it's good for like ethnic divides to on their own be responsible for self-actualizations of whatever it is that is their dream. If succeeding totally creates self-actualization, we think that's a good thing, right? The next thing we'll be showing you is the principles of nationhood, right? We think that nations are created on certain principles, right? Things, particularly in Nigeria, it's created on things like freedom, peace, and unity, right? The fact that people are able to get a good access to all these like principles that they preach about, right? But what happens in his world is this: because you create it and because you compel them, because you do not meet the original needs why the movements exist, people are still going to be disgruntled, and we think that that like delegitimizes the essence of nationhood upon which these states were built at the end of the day. The next thing I'll be showing you is how at the end of the day, there'll still be two harms created, both on the secessionist part and on Nigeria's part as a whole, right? This means one of the harms that's inherent in the system is how people think there's an unequitable distribution of resources, right? We think that in a world where it is semi-autonomous and where there's still a central government that exists, we may still have problems of equitable distribution because it comes from a particular central to the semi-bodies, right? We think that the biggest problem we have in our world today in Nigeria is corruption, because some people who are at the helm get there and then they decide when best they want to practicalize it and send out the resources to, right? So this means that at the end of the day, like sections like the Niger Delta, who already have the oil and who are well enough to clamor that they want to separate, we think that they're going to be able to survive very well, right? Then the next thing I'll be showing you again is how we think even within ethnic divide. Two things. First of all, people who are within one ethnic divide they don't share the same ideologies with wanting to succeed, right? So this means that even among Igbos, there are some people who want Biafra and there are still some people who do not want Biafra. And we think that's a big problem you have when you create a divide when you force people to become semi-autonomous and you compel them. We have a problem with creating, we also have a problem with compelling. We think that at the end of the day, this multiplicity of ideologies that exist even in independent homogeneous, being a homogeneous ethnic region does not legitimize at any level the fact that people will still not have multiplicities in ideologies. It does not delegitimize corruption that will still happen. It does not delegitimize unequitable resources if there's still going to be a central government. And we think that all these things are particularly things that we should care about a whole lot. What happens is, first of all, the secessionists are not happy the goals haven't been met. Even under Nigeria, we think that the benefits we get in Nigeria, the only way we are able to primarily say that Nigeria is a progressive state, that Nigeria is a state that is enjoying a lot of good, is if Nigeria is if Nigeria thrives on a national united level, right? And that's what you don't get in status quo. People are disgruntled because they want independence. If you give them semi-autonomy, which is still not what they want, you're still not going to have a united front. And we think that all the benefits these guys think, if you're going to have Nigeria, is still not going to be there. We showed you why on all levels the semi-autonomy will still not help the current problem. People will still clamor, they'll still tell you they want full independence, and we showed you how there will still be we'll show you how there will still be oppression, and we showed you how at the end of the day people are going to have sovereignty if they exist as a separate state. Stop using South Sudan. We think that if this self-actualizes them, that's still fine. I'm proud to be here. Do nDCV find out in Ezenwakoba.